love to see it. I'm so excited about it. And one of the great things is that it brings so many people back into the game. Even people have not noticed that the Masters was on. It's like, wow, you're right in the middle of summer, and here comes the U.S. Open, and everybody wants to get out. So with that, I want to start with you, Allison, because I hear that congratulations are in order because you're now operating another 18-hole golf course. Is that true?
That is true. So everyone congratulates me on it, and I'm never sure if that's appropriate.
Well, I was going to say it's either congratulations or condolences. It's one of the
two. Yeah. So yeah, no, I started managing. I don't own it, so it's kind of a funny story. The owners of the golf course, they also own a winery, and so they originally went to the auction to purchase a mower from the golf course, and the golf course was going, I won't say, cheap, but it was it was inexpensive enough that they were like, hey, maybe we should buy this golf course also. And so we happen to have some mutual friends because after they bought it, they're like, we know absolutely nothing about golf. And so we have mutual friends who recommended me. And so now we are managing this second golf course. And we did, in fact, let him use the mower that he originally went to bid on. So, but I was talking to Jeff. I said, it's been kind of a fun experience for me because, I've grown up on my family's golf course. Next year, we'll, have been around for 50 years. And so I know how our golf course works. I know the ins and outs. And when I go to the conferences, people will talk about different things that they're struggling with. And it's always, some of the things are somewhat foreign to me, just because of the nature and the style of our golf course. And yet I'm experiencing those things at this other club. So for instance, they didn't have a website prior to me taking over. Wow. They were using a paper tee sheet. Very few leagues, very few activities, hardly any events. And, we started with a database of 0. And so, very different philosophy to how I run my golf course. And so it's almost like starting a whole new business. Wow. And to me, it's somewhat rewarding to see the things that I've honed in, at my family's golf course. Does it actually work? Or does it only work because of what I'm doing here? And I am pleased to say it absolutely works. So we're building that database and turning that golf course around and starting to do all sorts of different things. And of course, the very first thing I did was build a website.
Well, yeah, so, not having a website and paper tee sheets, it sounds like the official mailing address of that golf course is 1994. But,
it really, there was a lot of things that felt like I was going back in time. Yeah. My kids were, we've done some remodeling and renovation, and it was funny because we were going through the filing cabinets and there was carbon paper. And the kids are like, what is this? My kids are in their 20s. And so they have absolutely no idea what carbon paper, is. And so, I'm like, this is carbon paper. I taught them how it works. And I was like, how you CC someone in the email, this is where that comes from.
Carbon copy. And, exactly.
Yeah. And then, they had the old fashioned, the credit card reader, that you actually, slide back and forth.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, some of it
was. Want to hold on to some of that stuff and create sort of a little golf course museum over there. That
yeah, it did. It did feel somewhat like that. So it's been, that part to me has been really almost kind of fascinating and fun. And certainly as I'm bringing my children into the business with me, it's been fun for them to learn where, the only reason I know anything about this is because I grew up, in the 90s, on my family's course. So it's been really fun to teach them and then also kind of reflect back on, the 20 years I've been doing, managing this, the family's course. Wow, you know what? I know a lot more than I probably give myself credit for.
So. Well, it sounds like an awesome journey. I can't wait to come up and play it. Maybe find some old balls out there too.
Yes.
Jeff, I want to get to you because I want to get to some issues that are going on right now today that are relevant to golf course operations. We've had a chance to play together and talk about some of the issues of the day, and a lot of those have not changed since we last spoke. And
Right.
One of those things is the labor issues, and we talked about that at great length when we played. We're into the season now. We're still experiencing sort of this boom and rush to the game. People are maintaining that interest even as the effects of the pandemic are on the wane for the most part, thankfully. How, with the increase in golfers and the decrease in labor, how are you managing those issues these days?
Well, we're managing one of the things. Our entry level employees, we don't have much problem getting those people and getting them to stick. It's another level of whether it's assistant golf pro, assistant superintendent, or someone who may want a career in golf. Those people don't exist. It's amazing. If you try to hire assistant superintendent, you're going to battle with 40 other golf courses for that employee, and it's really going to be tough on the daily fee public golf courses going forward.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to home grow some of our staff, and we're gonna have to commit more money to education and keeping them around. So,
are those the positions you're finding hardest to fill? So that agronomy is one of the difficult ones, and there's some research that shows that actually food and beverage management, those positions are among the hardest to fill as well.
yeah, it's some of the schools in the last 10 years that provided our agronomy graduates had fallen on really low attendance, and now we're starting to see some pickup, but it's going to take a long time to fill that pipeline with the current schools that are out there. So
yeah.
I don't know about in Michigan. My superintendent is the president of I think it's the Iowa Turfgrass. And Iowa is, of course, known for producing people who in the farm industry. And there has been, up at Iowa State, a major decrease because a lot of them are going to work for the city as opposed to golf because, you get days off there. When they do, sports turf and those types of things. But what Iowa has introduced is, I think it's called, is it called First Green? It's kind of a play on First Tee. And he's been doing some speaking around the state about how STEM, when you are a golf course superintendent, you are using all parts of that STEM. And so I don't know if that's a national, if that's a national push, but I was very pleased to hear that because, you're absolutely right. We've done a lousy job. We don't make the job sound interesting because all we complain about is how many hours you work, which, who wants to actually, that doesn't make the job sound fun. And so we need to stop complaining about how many hours we work and focus on the benefits more so. But it's been cool for him. So we just did it with our junior golfers. He took them out on the green and we took the moisture reader and, showed, what kind of moisture. And then, he did some soil samples and would pull out and he was explaining, what you're looking for. And I mean, the kids just ate it up. And so when you focus on the parts of your job that are interesting, those are the things we need to be talking about rather than, how many hours you work. Because I know even when I go to the conference, people will, they when somebody says, I just bought a golf course, the first thing you say is, I'm sorry, which you really shouldn't be saying things like that.
I mean, that's sort of the inside joke, with the industry. And we'll talk a little bit about work-life balance a little bit later in the segment. We'll talk about that.
One of the things that we've done in Michigan, and we just implemented it just a couple weeks ago, is we have now a federal apprenticeship program for our turf people in Michigan, and it's being run by our Michigan Golf Course Association. And to try and bring those people in at I'll call it the homegrown, somebody who shows some interest, we can get federal apprenticeship certification for them and maybe push them into a career in golf. So
it is about selling the industry as well as we sell the game. Talk about make golf your thing. How about make golf your career?
Yeah,
is another push that absolutely needs to be done. Another big overarching subject or theme is, of course, the economy. And as we're seeing some prices rise, inflation and things like that. Gas prices are rising. So of course, a lot of things affect the cost of your operations. We talk about that for, I mean, a couple hours if we wanted to. But I want to talk a little bit about how that is or could affect not only your operations, but again, that boom of people that we have coming back to the game, because we still, for the most part, consider a round of golf disposable income, right? So are you seeing the effects of the economy now at this time? And what are you doing to try to prepare for that and make sure that that doesn't hit you too hard in this season?
Yeah, so I mean, for us personally, I would say the only main thing, I mean, obviously we see our prices increase, and it's kind of a hard balancing act, because I don't want to price myself so that people don't come anymore, because I think probably I hear complaints about price more than I ever have, you know, and so you have to kind of have some sort of a customer service, to me, balancing act of our family's philosophy, at least, is that we are planning to absorb some of those costs, just because it is unreasonable for me to add $1 to every can of beer, you know, to be able to, you know, make up for, you know, what we're losing. So, and so far, that loyalty that we have towards our customer has been working, but it's a challenging, very, very challenging to try and work our way through that, because, you know, obviously I don't want to absorb so much cost that it's, you know, detrimental to the business. So it's kind of just trying to find, you know, what are those, you know, what are the places where we're going to raise money? We talked about doing like a gas surcharge, and you know, you know, we're really debating with it, because I know as a consumer, I hate it when people do that kind of stuff to me, you know, and so, but I also want to be able to pay my bills. So,
right. And also to provide the product, you know, at the standard that people that people expect. And Jeff, I think what Allison is describing is really this balancing act that so many business owners are facing. How are you walking that fine line between?
We have determined that we're going to absorb most of our cost increase this year going forward, to see what happens if it balances out, and we'll adjust next year. I think one of the things that's happened the last 4 or 5 years is that, in our case in particular, we've worked really hard to find to price our product at different levels at different times of the day, so that if somebody finds the price at 9 o'clock in the morning too high, we can suggest to them, well, maybe they play at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they'll have a better price situation. So we haven't dealt with much price resistance this year, and we went up a little bit, but not much. And we are just, I thought last year was our best year ever, and I thought, well, we'll never have that again. Well, that was a lie. You know, because May was better than last year, and June was better than last year. April was awful, but that's a weather issue. You can't do much about that in our business. So,
right, outdoor business. Yeah, there's some things you can't control.
But there are, you know, going forward, there are things that are really concerning to me. And one, you know, price of equipment that we need to purchase, price of golf carts, you know, price of financing. You know, if you have to finance any of this stuff, but it's going to have a big impact on what golf courses are going to be able to do.
Oddly enough, I think I'm probably known for being a techie person. I'm actually also concerned about how much technology they're putting in mowers, because you basically can't hire a mechanic. And I almost don't want the technology on some of this stuff, that because I need my superintendent to be able to fix things without having to buy a really expensive computer to figure it out. So I am, you know, in 10 years, I just look at my, you know, I just got a new car. I hadn't had a new car for almost 12 years. And I couldn't believe, like, all the technology, and the only thing I can think of is, like, I'm not gonna be able to drive this car for 10 years because all those computers are gonna go bad. And you know, it's really nice that, you know, some of those features, but the first thing I looked at, I'm like, this is crazy, you know. And you think about, you know, a car from the 70s, you know, where you used to be able to, you know, fix it. And I am concerned just how much technology we actually want to put in those mowers, and whether or not we want to have a mower that can be stripped down. Like maybe you have an option of the stripped down model, because you want to talk about something you cannot hire, and that is a mechanic.
Yeah, there's a lot of that technology out there, and I had the same experience. My daily driver is a very, very simple car, because I'd like to be able to approach it with a wrench and not a USB cable. That's sort of my breaking point for technology.
I was like, how do you turn some of this stuff off? Like, I don't, I know when I'm trying to change lanes, I don't want my steering wheel to tell me to stop changing lanes. It's just, and I know that, that technology is there to, move to like, a self-driven car, but I don't know. Sometimes when I complain about stuff like that, I'm like, oh, I'm starting to sound old.
Just reach for the carbon paper. That'll settle you. It's calming sense, just the scent of the carbon paper. I want to, before we go, because I don't have too much time, but I want to talk about the new golfers that are coming to the game, because we had so much success in bringing young folks in, albeit again because of an unfortunate circumstance with the pandemic, but now they're here, right? And I noticed this thing, and I say sort of the one of the major sort of splits or forks in the road between the types of golfers is music on the course. We all know that thing, right? Where there's some people who just hate the idea of music on the golf course, and that will completely set them off. And there's others, and I count myself in that camp, that I keep in my golf bag a speaker, because if I just want to have music on the golf course. I won't play it if people are totally against it, but if I have my druthers, I'm going to have music on the golf course. And I'm really excited when I see golf carts now that have the Bose system that you connect to, Bluetooth when there. But there's other issues, including like, smoking versus vaping, how you choose to drink on the golf course, what you choose to wear, the dress codes, that sort of thing. Jack, we'll start with you. When you have like these millennials on the golf course and new players to the game and your older traditionals, how do you handle sort of that, what I call the Bushwood syndrome, where the Judge Smales versus the Dangerfields? How do you handle those guys?
We've not really had that much problem. I would not even describe that as even a thought in my day. And again, it has to do with how we are welcoming our customers to the golf course, and we overwhelm them with staff. If there's anything that when we talk about how good business is, it's been our ability to take that and to have enough staff around to greet, as I mentioned, greet them when they arrive, greet them at the shop, greet them at the first tee. And so we're going to work our way through a lot of those issues, making them comfortable and figuring out, hey, if we have a problem, we'll know it right away and we'll deal with it. But we just don't have it. I think part of it is our golf course is difficult enough that this may not be a starter golf course for them. So maybe we don't get that group.
Okay.
But we welcome them with open arms and even boat oars.
I like the idea of welcome being the core principle there. Allison, how are you dealing with the
So I have I'm smiling because I have the door closed to my office here, because if I had it open, you would hear a lot of music playing. So I have been playing music on the golf course before it was even a thing, probably for 15 years. Every time we have a golf outing, I always have a playlist going. Wow. And I don't know if it's because I've been doing it for so long, but the fuddy-duddies, I think they just gave up fighting me on it. And so as a rule, people really like it. And I think some of it is kind of the price point. So when we're more expensive, that tends to be more of a traditional golfer, and we have less, music on the course. And then as the price point, lowers throughout the day, then we have more, I guess the modern golfer, who has speakers and whatnot. And I will say, going to this other golf course, they are very, very, very traditional. And so when I have music playing there, I get a lot of complaints. And I'm just like, you're gonna have to play with me, because this is how you bring that younger crowd in, And I the other day, we had somebody who was complaining about someone young, and I wanted to ask to them, like, do you want me to like only allow people who are 30 and older? Like you have to have young people on your course, and you know they're not going to be the best golfers, but we have to make them feel welcome. Otherwise, they're not going to play.
Yeah.
And you do have to have that welcoming of all, and it's a balancing act, but you know we don't struggle with it, you know, terribly much. And what's interesting, I played high school golf. I graduated in the 90s, and my daughter just graduated, and the golf team went to state this year. And as a rule, throughout her golf career, I have never gone and followed her because as a golf course owner, I just think that is silly.
Right.
I don't understand why people do that.
Uh-huh.
And it kind of got to be a reputation that I had never actually, being a golf course owner, I'd never actually gone and watched my daughter play golf. And so I was like, okay, fine. You know, you're going to state. I'm gonna break my rule, and I'm gonna go. I could not believe how these kids play. They had they're 20, 30 carts, you know, following. It was like it was at the US Open, only, you know, state golf tournament. And I mean, I could not believe the difference of like when I played golf. No, there wasn't a single parent that followed along, and you wouldn't even have thought about it. And so there is obviously this very different philosophy and I think because those kids are, I probably would have played terribly if my parents were watching me. You know, I always played the worst when I played with my dad. And so, but it is really fascinating to me that they didn't care. They didn't care that there was 30
Right.
people watching them, you know, some of them talking in their backswing and whatnot.
Yeah.
They didn't care at all.
Yeah.
So that's the golfer that's going to start coming here. And I imagine that has been going on for several years. I just, you know, hadn't actually seen it. So,
Well, it's interesting. I mean, these are the golfers that are not only going to come to the game, these are the golfers that are going to stay in the game because,
Yes.
you know, the young golfers become middle-aged and old golfers, you
They-
know, if
they
we're
do.
lucky.
They
So
do.
fingers
Yeah.
crossed. So.
and they're completely used to that noise in the background, and it doesn't bother them the way, you know, someone that would be, you know, a little bit older might.
Well,
I would think one of the things that I've observed is the millennial golfer is that, you know, those kids who did play golf are bringing their friends now. They're not all bad golfers, you know. They're not all inept. They're not all totally lost. So it's been fascinating to watch. We've seen a big uptick in millennial women playing golf, and I think a lot of that has come from high school programs where they were introduced to it, or the same thing that we all grew up with. And it was April was a bad month for us, but I can't tell you how many women we had playing golf in bad weather. In years past, you'd say, oh, no, we're not playing in weather like this. And boom, there they are. They're out there playing. And I'm so excited about where we're headed that I can hardly wait to see what comes next.
Well,
Yeah,
I think
I'm seeing the exact same thing at our course. You know, it's much younger than it was, you know, 10 years ago. And I think both Jeff and I have that welcoming philosophy of, you know, we don't care if you don't have on a collared shirt, you know. You know, people call us still and ask what our dress code is, and we just say we just require that you wear clothes. So
I think that's a good that's a good rule of thumb. We'll put that at the beginning of the Course Owner's Manual. Hey guys, I apologize because we're run out of time, and it's just been so much fun and so educational as always to speak with you and learn what you're doing and what you're going to be doing. Again, thanks so much for taking the time, and I just can't wait to not only have you back on the show, but to get out to your golf courses and experience some of what you're doing out there to make the game more welcoming for everyone. Jeff Hogue, Allison George, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. That was exciting. That really justified my sugar high of golf, to know that there are people out there who are doing so much to make the game accessible. We have a catchphrase for golf now that says, what does it make golf your thing? But I think that part of that is, you know, it has to be sort of come as you are, right? You don't have to necessarily get an associate's degree in golf course behavior before you attempt to go to the course. We're getting a lot of folks from Top Golf and other things, people who played on simulators who want to get the green grass experience, and we have to welcome them. Come as you are. And make that sure that first experience is a warm and welcoming one. So congratulations to those owners and all you owners out there who are doing that very thing. We're going to take a quick break and we'll come back with House Chat. That's going to be with PGA Services. It's going to be very informative, educational, and hopefully a little bit entertaining as always. So go and get yourself a beverage, a crunchy snack. We'll be right back. For Golf Business Live, Michael Williams. See you in a minute. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Golf Business Live with Michael Williams. And this is our ever popular House Chat segment where we talk to industry professionals, those who are in the know, who can get you more information than you can get from me. That's for sure. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about employment. And this is a people business. Ultimately, we got to have good people to provide a good experience. And these two guys are among the best in letting us know how to fill those very critical spots in our operations. We please welcome Keith Fisher and Dylan Gladney, who are consultants from PGA Career Services. Keith, Dylan, welcome to House Chat. How are you today?
Doing good, Michael. Thanks so much for having us. Looking forward to this conversation with everyone out there that's going to be listening in.
Michael, all is well. Like Keith said, excited to be here and looking forward to having this conversation.
Outstanding. And I got to say from the top, Dylan, your facial hair game is strong. I mean, super strong. Like you rock it. What do we call it? Is this like the D'Artagnan?
I guess so. Hey, it just depends on the day.
I love it. The Three Musketeers thing. I got to get there. Okay, that's my next level. Well, let's get to the nitty gritty of it. So, PGA Career Services. I guess I'll start with you, Dylan. If you want to give me just like a little rundown on what PGA Career Services is, and then Keith, I'll let you fill in on some of the facts and figures too.
Absolutely. So I'll let Keith kind of dive deeper into actually what Career Services is because he's been here a lot longer than I have. But I'll talk specifically kind of about recruiting and this new initiative that we've started a couple of years ago. They started a recruiting initiative. They understood that the industry in so many words was aging out and there needed to kind of be a resurgence of recruitment back to the industry. So they started this recruiting and retention initiative. And if you kind of look at our department, it's very unique. It's 4 recruiting specialists across the country who serve various regions, very diverse, really out there to better understand what our recruitment needs are, right? You look at our team, our goal is to identify, inform, invite, and lead the next generation of golf industry professionals and PGA members. So this is something fairly new in terms of recruitment. And I'll kind of push it over to Keith and let him talk about his role in Career Services.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. Obviously, with the recruiting arm, that's kind of brand new, and Dylan is helping lead that charge across the country. So we can't thank him and his team enough on that end. On our end, from a career services standpoint, our department's been around since the early 2000s. But what we're here to do is we're here to help facilities hire industry professionals in whatever manner they may be looking for. And we've actually expanded out our team over the past 5 years. We're now over 25 members of our team across the country here, all in regional locations. So all localized, understand what challenges those facilities might be going through from a regionality standpoint. But also we've expanded out our executive search arm of our department as well. So what that is we do offer just a free service that you can post positions on our job board, but we also have an executive search arm of our department as well called PGA Executive Search. And that has actually grown by 140% since over just 2020 to 2021. And previous to that, it had grown 150%. Roughly. So we've seen exponential growth in this space, and that's going out and helping facilities hire management level positions. It is a fee-based service, but it is something that we're able to leverage the power of the PGA out there, and our business is ever expanding in that market space. So on top of that, we also offer career-related educations for our PGA members, as well as helping them with their careers at the end of the day, helping them get to that next level, making sure they're prepared to take that next step in their career, whatever that may mean. But at the end of the day, that kind of helps the owners and operators because we're making sure that they're the best trained individuals out there to be running their facilities.
Outstanding. You clearly have a lot going on here. When you talk about numbers like 100% growth, that sort of thing. I guess I'm curious about how that growth is counted and represented. Does that mean that you have 100% more people who are using it, 100% more people who are entering it into your databases? How do you measure that growth?
So that growth measured based on usage. It's the number of facilities that are utilizing our service. So we've seen that service grow, as I said, 139% just from 2020 to 2021, and we continue to grow into 22 here. You know, it's just ever expanding. But yeah, it's all based on the number of facilities that are starting to utilize our services.
And I'll stay with you for a second, Dylan, because we've seen the growth in rounds in the game, and we've talked about this multiple times in multiple platforms here at the National Golf Course Owners Association about the number of golfers who've come into the game, which is great over the course of the last 2 years. But we also have seen this exodus, and people are calling it the Great Resignation, is hitting all businesses. So you have this challenge of getting quality people in. I'm assuming this is what's driving a large part of your growth here. Is there anything that you're doing particularly over the course of the last 2 years to beef up your capabilities to meet the needs of the people who are coming to you for quality staff?
Absolutely. So one of the initiatives that we're especially excited about is the creation of a new job board, an industry job board, so to speak. And that will house all the industry roles, all the industry opportunities as we begin to recruit and create this awareness around the industry. I mean, we always go and we tell the individuals it's a $84 billion industry with thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs, right, out there to be had. And so we thought to ourselves, we're filling the funnel. What is it now that we need to pull all these individuals into one central area? And the job board is ultimately what we came up with. We have these industry work groups through Make Golf Your Thing, through Make Golf Your Career, where we're working with the PGA Tour, where we're working with the LPGA, we're working with other organizations within the industry to create this so that we fill this funnel and then send them to one place. I would say that's probably one of our greatest initiatives that we're working on, amongst other things. A few questions that you always have to ask yourself. You talked about this Great Resignation post-COVID, or I guess, are we still in COVID? Who knows, right?
Who knows?
But when you talk about this Great Resignation that we're experiencing, one thing that we have to always ask ourselves as golf course owners, as individuals in the industry, as employers, is three questions. Have you created an enjoyable work environment? Do you mentor and advance your employees? And then do you create meaningful work or purpose? Again, we're working in the hospitality industry, working in the industry where individuals don't get to work from home. So you have to create meaningful work for them in the workplace. So those are the questions that I always ask individuals when they talk about recruitment and retention. And again, this job board is something that we're especially excited about.
Well, it sounds like we're crossing over a little bit because in my consulting work, I talk to people a lot about corporate culture and making yourself an attractive workplace in which to both to attract new employees and to retain the quality employees that you spent so much time and invested so much money in training and getting familiar with your organization. If you're going to attract and retain, you have to have that positive corporate culture. So I think you're spot on that one. Keith, you've seen, as you said, over 10 years, you've had these types of programs going, and you've seen people come into the industry. And I know that, when you're hunting for a job, if you're looking for a food and beverage manager, they need food and beverage experience. If you're looking for outdoor services, they have to have certain qualifications there. But is there anything that you find that is a common link for what makes a quality golf facility employee? Is there something that makes those employees stand out? And I see you nodding because I have a feeling there might be something, a common thread that people can look for.
Yeah, it's a very simple answer from my perspective. I've been in the industry since I was 14 years old, and it always comes down to personality. If the individual has an outgoing personality that's going to be out there and engaging those customers that are coming through the door, no matter what position they're in at a facility, we always say, look, we can't train personality, but we can definitely train to skills and different aptitudes that they need to learn at the positions. But at the end of the day, having a smile on their face, greeting that individual that's coming through that door, and just being an engaging individual, that leaps and bounds. That's what sets everybody apart of being successful in this industry.
And Dylan, your thoughts on that? Any common thread that you see that makes a person a really a good candidate, especially for the golf industry?
I would agree with Keith, and I would also add, I guess, just a willingness to grind. You know, this is a passion. This is a passion industry, and people have to understand that. One of the, I guess, key areas that we found some success in, as far as recruiting individuals like this that we didn't typically look at, are sports management universities and those college programs, military, second career individuals, PGA Hope. I mean, we found extreme success in the last few months with recruiting those individuals because they have a passion for sports, or they have a passion for the work that they do. So I would say an individual whose passion really shines, in addition to somebody who has that personality, that hospitality.
And I think it's very interesting when I look at your backgrounds, and it tells the diversity of your personal stories tells me that success can be found from a variety of different pathways. It doesn't necessarily have to be sort of, youth player who then went to the country club and then, worked in the golf. There's no set path, because Keith, if I'm not mistaken, you've been a head pro for years. And so you've been sort of steeped in the industry from that thing, right? And I'm imagine that serves you well in understanding of the business and the needs of the business. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. My background's fairly diverse within the industry, but as I said, I've been in the industry since I was 14. So I've never really not lived it, so to speak. And that's helped me grow into this role and be successful. But yeah, again, as you go to Dylan, him and I's backgrounds and way that we've gotten into this industry is completely different. But at the same time, that's what's great about this industry, is we can bring in such diverse individuals from different backgrounds to really be successful.
And I mean, Dylan, for you, I mean, I can't, the number of ways that you are diverse is kind of interesting, because I mean, I see that you've worked, now you're working with the PGA, but you've also worked with the NCAA, and then you've also worked with NASA, the NASA. Other than having every organization you work for ended in A, I wonder how that diversity of experience, that must give you a lot of encouragement when you're going out looking at people and recruiting them into the industry, saying, look, you don't have to necessarily be a lifelong golfer. You have to be a quality person, not just a deep, so your DNA doesn't have to be in golf.
Right. Absolutely. And when I found out, knowing that the PGA ends with A, I knew it was meant to be. But yeah, no, absolutely. I came into the industry fairly late in the game. I was introduced to golf in grad school through my professor, a Fairways to Leadership program that really was structured around golf leadership and life skills. And this was shortly after George Floyd's killing. And this was something that he wanted to give to people who were not historically introduced to the game of golf. And so my background is, like you mentioned, with NASA, it was with public affairs. With the NCAA, it was with DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so kind of really bridging all those things together has really been very helpful for me in this industry. And I tell people all the time, use me as an example, that it doesn't matter where you come from. Golf can be a very inclusive sport in terms of play and practice.
Mm-hmm. I think when you go back to the beginning of the sport, that's where its roots are. And it's good that it's coming back to that people are understanding that it doesn't have to be necessarily for the wealthy and well-heeled, or not. It's not necessarily for any one particular person. It can be for anyone. They can find a gratifying career and a gratifying life in the golf industry. We got just a couple of minutes left. And guys, I just want to ask you each if you have like a story or an example that you can come up with of real success that gives you encouragement and that you use as an example when people say, hey, what do we do? How do you really help people? Is there a single example that sort of stands out in your mind? Keith, I'll go to you first.
All right. Yeah, well, That's the great thing about this position. I have a story like that almost every day, especially from helping our PGA professionals. I'll get phone calls, out of the blue. Hey, you helped me get this job by what we talked about, prepping for interviews, those sorts of things. But even on facility standpoint, when I help a facility find that right individual for their role, we get testimonials or thank yous from those facilities saying, wow, actually, I went back to a facility I had helped with a head professional role just here recently to hire their new general manager. And they were like, man, we were so happy with the head pro that we were able to find through your department and through you that we knew we had to come back to you for this search too. And that means a lot to me, but at the same time, it's those professionals going, hey, you helped change my life by helping me get my dream job. So that every day, almost I get those phone calls or have those conversations. So it's a cool part of being in the role that I'm in.
Outstanding. And I'll let you close us out, Dylan. Any particular success stories that you like to relate?
I'll once again agree with Keith in saying that, we speak with members and non-members every day and helping them understand how to navigate their career or pathways to PGA membership. But one, I guess, in particular program that stands out to me is the PGA Fellowship, the PGA Reach Fellowship, rather. And that offers individuals from various sections to take part in a 1-year paid fellowship where the individual will get an understanding of all aspects of the section's business. So across the 41 sections, they can apply for a PGA fellow. And this past year, I had the opportunity to work with a few of them. And I guess just the appreciation and the things that they taught me through their fellowship alone, I mean, it was extremely powerful. It's centered around giving particularly minority students or people from minority backgrounds the opportunity to work in the golf industry. A lot of them did not have, again, a traditional golf background, but had an understanding of business or had an understanding of sports management. And the success that I've seen in this role, and we've actually been able to place a lot of them in permanent roles through the 1 year that I've worked with them. And again, this program is just something that's extremely powerful, impactful for the organization. And for me to be a part of it, I mean, I've just been very appreciative and learned a lot through them. So
That's great. That's outstanding. I always say, again, when I'm talking to folks, it's like diversity, equity, inclusion. These aren't your ticket to heaven. This is your ticket to success. It's the idea of finding quality people, no matter who they are, no matter where they are, no matter where they come from, gender, race, any of that. It's about quality people and bringing them into a quality situation and having a great outcome. Keith, I know we've only had a few minutes here and we've covered a lot, but we've only scratched the surface of what you guys have done and can do. Where can people go for more information about how to get in touch with you?
Well, a couple different areas. Number one, you can go, if you're interested in ExecuSearch at all, go to www.pgaexecusearch.com. It's EXECUSEARCH for ExecuSearch. Or they can reach out to me at kfisher, and it's FISHER at pgahq.com. Happy to have a conversation, happy to connect and see how we can help out.
Dylan, you want to throw out any other contact information, or do we have it pretty much covered there?
We have it pretty much covered. I will add our recruiting email, recruiting@pga.com, and also throw out our LinkedIn, PGA Career Services.
Outstanding.
Reach out to us.
Outstanding. Gentlemen, I am so glad we had a chance to talk like this. This has been a very useful, practical, and I'm sure it'll be a very popular edition of House Chat. Thank you so much for coming on, and I hope we can call on you in the future for advice and expertise when it comes to this area.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Michael. Thank you guys so much for having us.